Hey, everybody. Welcome back once again to the Sabian Education Network webinar roundtable every Friday. Today is a really exciting day for me. And my co-host Dom will be joining. He's having a little technical difficulty, but he will be back in. Today, I am incredibly honored and very excited to have one of the true living legends of drumming, a person who set the drumming world on its ear when he hit the scene with the Mad Vishnu Orchestra and has recorded not only dozens of albums as a leader and a composer, but with pretty much all the living and contemporary jazz legends of his day, from George Duke to Miles Davis, and an eminent educator, the great Mr. Billy Cobham. Billy, welcome today.
Thanks a lot, Joe. Thanks, Dom, when you get on. It's a pleasure to be here with you, representing myself and the veritable Art Linkletter.
We're in Disneyland. What's going on here?
No, I'm just joking. But he was one of my. Art Linkletter was one of my heroes, man. You know, along with Bud Abbott and Lou Costello, and who was on first, and I don't know who's on second. No,
awesome.
Who's on third.
Awesome. Well, we're gonna. I want to get into some questions that I prepared for you, and then Dom will jump in when he comes, and then we'll save some of the travels that you and Dom did together for hopefully when he gets on later. So,
right, yeah.
So hey, everybody, welcome. I know you guys are really excited. If you have questions for Bill, please type them into the comments as we go. Oh, I think we have Dom. Let's see.
1, 2.
We got Dom. Here we go. All right.
Do you know any more than one? You've got a very long list of numbers, man. Can you add any more?
Nice. All right, Dom came in at the buzzer. We're great now. So Dom, I'm going to I introduce Bill. I'm going to kick it off with my first question that I've actually always wanted to ask him, and we're going to go back through some classic recordings that he did, some things I've always wanted to know. So, actually, Bill, the first thing I wanted to ask you was, I was going through your massive list of recordings, and of course, you're known for your open-handed setup and the large kit and everything. And as I go back through George Duke, Miles Davis, and all these different recordings that you did, did you see it that you had to have the large kit on all those recordings? So when you're on Bitches Brew and everything, or did you keep that as your voice and modify it to the artist?
On the Bitches Brew sessions, on record, my bass drum size was 12 by 16. Stop laughing, Dom. It's true. Okay, now you're letting it all out, man. You see, I can't say anything. But it's true.
Think of how small that kit is.
But there's a reason for this, okay?
Yeah, a small kit, but you got a huge sound out of that.
Well, that's Stan Tonkel, but that's another. That's the engineer, and so we'll get into that. But what was happening is that bass drum was accompanied by a 10 by 12 inch tom. It's like a box, and my floor tom was a 12 by 14 inch floor tom.
Wow.
Okay. I think, yeah, because this was this was the idea of a bunch of crazy people up on 50th Street and 8th Avenue, because we had nothing else better to do, and everybody there was desperate for work. So because it's human beings are crazy, man. When you have to work together, all of a sudden it doesn't matter whether you're polka dot, chartreuse, blue, black, blue. Everybody's going, well, okay, Billy's got a gig. He's working with Miles. Okay, I don't know what to do. I mean, I couldn't afford to rent back in those days, there were rental companies, and I can't even remember them now. Yeah. But I couldn't afford that. And so I was living in the Village in an L-shaped studio with my girlfriend. The drums were at the foot of the bed of a bed that only really fit two people. One person on top of the other person, and that way how you had two people, and you insulated it with a blankets. Let's not get into it. But anyway, so the next thing you know, I get the call. Jack and Jeanette had told Miles about me. Miles, the long story short, Miles calls me the next day. He calls me, he gets my girlfriend. My girlfriend gets upset because she can't understand what he's talking about because he's whispering and it sounds like he had marbles in his mouth. I'll never forget this. And so, of course, I come in after just going to the grocery store around the corner on Bank Street to get something. It was the A&P, and we get the stuff and come back in, and she tells me, said, he had marbles in it. I just like, couldn't tell. What's the phone number? He said, yeah, I wrote it down, what I could. And I look at it, I said, yeah, oh, it's mine. Hello? I call him, and he goes, Columbia, tomorrow, 10 o'clock. Don't be late. And hangs up. So I go, huh? So anyway, I go, but what am I going to play? So I go back, Ippolito's, and all of a sudden they go, well, okay, how can I put this? He says, I got this one thing here upstairs. And then we go upstairs and we start to rummage around. And, it's like, who are the guys? Zooty Singleton, all these different names from Dixieland Cats that have since had, most of them had died. Some of them are still around. I forget the guy who made all the books. John, you know him.
Not Famularo.
Famularo. But he came and went, and him and Papa Joe had arguments all the time, daily arguments, blah, 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 blah. In between to that was like Rich and everybody else coming and going because they were working. But me and Tony Williams and Elvin, when he was in town, were teaching up there. Oh, man. And it was three. Tony, me, Elvin, Max.
Max was up there, yeah.
Up there, and Papa Joe, right? But there was one more cat. It was one white cat up there, and I can't remember his name. It was a great guy, man. Quiet, and he knew his stuff. And I can't remember his name. He was a little bit chunky, but that was the crew. Somehow on a given day, anybody you found a place and you could get $10 or $15 for a lesson.
That wasn't Ted Reed, was it? Was it Ted Reed?
What? No, Ted wasn't there. Ted came in, but no, it was because Ted was over at Henry Adler's.
Oh, he was at Adler's place. Yeah. And what you're talking about is Frank Ippolito's drum shop. For those that don't know,
professional percussion center.
And it was, and everybody hung out there. That's where I had lessons with Joe. Yeah. Everybody was there. Yeah.
Al Duffy. Al Duffy made my set. Right. He said, "Well, look, this is all I got, and if you want the thing, you're going to have to take this." So he put this thing together. He says, "You have any money?" I said, "Well, just enough the money for the bus." He said, "Okay, this will do fine." He said, "But I got something that's better than this coming later." And what he made me later, we'll get into. But I actually played on this little set, brushes. It was a trap case. It was Mel Lewis's old trap case that I bought for $10, and I could put everything in it. My cymbals, but even though there was a hole in the bottom, so Al put something to reinforce the bottom of it, and a piece of wood and stuff like that. And so I had the trap case, snare drum, traps, cymbals, and I had the bass drum inside on one side of it with the snare drum, and then I had another case with the two toms. So I could get on the bus, on the back of the Surface Line bus, like that, over the city bus. It cost me 10 cents, and I would go, I went to CBS like that.
Oh my gosh. Not what I expected, for sure.
But neither did I.
As you can see with Billy, there are an insane amount of stories at all different levels, and he remembers them all.
Well, this I remember because I really didn't play that much. I just watched because I was in a room with 5 piano players, and when they all came together. But when I opened the door, I hit the foot of Chick Corea, who was at the end, right at the entrance, and next to him with Keith Jarrett, who was banging with his shoe on an electric piano. I can't remember the name of it right now. And then next to him was Joe Zawinul, who was absolutely petrified because he thought Keith was going crazy. So he wasn't playing, he was just looking like this. So there's those three. And then there was Larry Young, who made all three of them look like leprechauns. He was so big that he was on a B3 organ that looked like it was a celeste. You know, I mean, it was like,
yeah.
And his hands were so big. He was bigger than Oscar Peterson. He was huge.
Big.
I mean, Larry was 6'9".
Jeez.
You know, and he's anybody's defensive in middle tackle or an offensive. He was wearing this purple muumuu, and he's got this poncho hat, Panama hat on. You can hardly see his eyes, and he looked like the Cheshire Cat out of Alice in Wonderland. And he's like this, you know. And he was the most wonderful person in the world, man. Mr. Easy, you know. So those four cats, that's just the piano section, and then Herbie comes in late,
Right.
You know. Oh my God.
So Joe, there's a question from Bill Sabia. Billy, when you were playing with Miles Davis, were the parts written out, or did you? How was this all discussed? Can you pull up Bill's question?
Yeah, it scrolled up. And also, Bill, at this point, you're talking about you've heard no music, right? You're walking in cold, right? Or not? Right. Okay.
So all I'm doing is, I mean, when I got there, I'm seeing everybody getting in place in sections. Two bass players, Ron Carter and Harvey Brooks from Big Brother and the Holding Company.
Wow.
Okay. And then you have Alirio Lima, okay, from Brazil, Badal Roy Chowdhury from India on tabla in another isolated room. But Alirio didn't like, he felt claustrophobic, so he had to run around screaming all the time through the studio, and that was his percussion. And then you had Ayrton Moreira with a big suitcase in an isolated room that he was shaking the whole suitcase. And that was with everything imaginable in it, you know. So those things were happening, and that's how you kept those crazy people isolated, or let them do what they wanted to do. And then there's Steve. What's the heaviest? Grossman is standing next to Miles, and he's as calm as he could be. I mean, it was like on a wonderful summer's day, and all this excitement's going on, and I'm watching this, man. It's nothing else I can do but go. I just need to be quiet and watch and learn, you know. Now back to the music. McLaughlin was there, of course. John was there. They had their music. I had no idea, and I just watched. I want to say. No, Jack was not there this time. I took Jack's place. Tony might have been there. But all of it, what was beautiful about this whole thing is that no one ever played unless they had something to say. It was really beautiful. Miles just said boom, and the whole thing started. Just everybody started the rhythm section thing just energized immediately as you hear it on the record. And by the way, all those things, if they did a second track, I couldn't even begin. We played until it was time to go home. And it was a 3-hour session. We started, we ended. All of that's Tio Macero, genius. Miles, genius. I mean, it's this kind of thing. Stan Tonkel, insane. I mean, about what he could do. And this is all by movements. No music written for me. Never was. It was just what I heard. But again, I had a how could I say, a big plus in my behalf, because I listened to Miles. I mean, on all the things from the very, very, very beginning that I could get, you know, with him playing with other people in the West Coast, wherever, just to get an idea. Some artists, I mean, you got to listen to. Train, you listen. If I could have heard more, but I could only listen to him once every couple of years. There was so much coming out of one record. Yeah. And it was, I bought all the rest and left them there for someday down the road. That was 50 years ago. I don't need to. I mean, I can't. I mean, I'm so full of what he did 50 years ago on one record. Love Supreme.
That is fantastic. Yeah, beautiful. Boy, what's amazing about it,
I don't need any more.
where did your sense of courage and ability come to play? Because at that point you were just reacting to what was happening. You were surrounded by geniuses, but they were fortunate enough to bring in the genius mind of yourself to know how to react. And also, you also were pushing them, not just reacting. You were proactive in that recording.
Like I said, I've said many times, maybe not to you just time, but it was just kind of like, oh, great example. All right. This was not on the same session. After that happened, I don't know, days, weeks, I don't know, went by, and I got a call again. This time I went to rehearsal, and by the time I got there, I was on time. Miles helped me come upstairs, everything in his house. I set up my stuff. And for some reason, I know John was there, McLaughlin. I know who else was there. Michael Henderson was there, bass player from Detroit. Yeah. And this is where right about that time, strangely enough, and this is like 1 degree of connection, James Earl Jones made a movie called Jack Johnson. But right then, at the same time that was happening, we were recording the soundtrack to a documentary about Jack Johnson. Mm-hmm. Okay? That's what we were supposed to be doing. Thing is, and piece of music, this is the beauty of it. Yes, I had a piece of music. I swear to you, I wish I could have it. It was, in school we got the composition notebook, it was black on the cover and white lines. Yeah. 12 lines, 1 note per line, whole notes, diagonally on the page. That's what that was the scale we were going to play. The scale. Okay? That's all I saw, and I went, I'm really excited to hear what this is going to, what these guys thinking about, because they were there earlier than me. So I didn't know, The following day I go in, and again, it's Steve, John, Miles, Michael Henderson, and me. Nobody else that I can remember. No, not until later. Again, Herbie shows up late. But okay, I'm getting it. I'm getting to understand what that's all about, but that goes a little bit later on in my life. And it just so happened, he just happened to show up. It was just so wonderful to see him, because he brings in a record that he had just made on Warner Brothers called Fat Albert Rotunda. And all these things are happening all at the same time. And that settles down. Oh, we started playing first before that. It was supposed to be a sound check in the studio. And Miles said, don't play in between takes. And so I'm sitting there, my hands, this is just the answer to the question. I'm sitting there and I'm not playing because Miles said, don't play. And I'm not playing. And he did ask me at rehearsal, there was like a little kind of groove that he heard me play for something. And he said, I like that, play that tomorrow. And I went, oh, what did he ask me? Because I'm not going to remember, I know I'm not going to remember. And I talked myself out of remembering it, And so I'm sitting there, I'm going, oh my, I hope that we're almost through. I'm sure he's not going to ask me this. And we started playing just a little bit because they were taking time trying to get levels or get some kind of feeling happening. I don't know, talking about what we're going to do, God only knows, in the control room. So all of a sudden, of course, John couldn't stay still. So he starts to play this shuffle. And the reason why I bring it up is because that's the shuffle that we developed. We ended up playing with the Mahavishnu Orchestra. But that was with Miles first, you see. And but he was just sort of grooving. He was just thinking about this, and he started. He's not playing the line. He's just soloing without anything around it, and it was already grooving. Just him speaking through the instrument with no. You had with McLaughlin, you had everything all in at once inside a single line. You could feel where everything was going. It was a blues. And the next thing you know, Michael Henderson, I'm still holding on, man. I'm just listening, you know, and going, wow, man, that sounds great. You know, so Michael Henderson dropped in and it was like, and all of a sudden, this heavy walk. And I'm listening, man, my head's bobbing, and all of a sudden, I don't even remember how it happened, but my hands started moving. And I was even surprised. I'm serious, man. You know, I'm trying to keep the gig. I don't want to get fired. So he said not to play. It's not my fault. My hands are moving. I didn't start. So I'm playing, and all of a sudden, she's back, and all of a sudden we're dancing now. Miles comes out, said, I said not to play. And everybody goes, whoop, and we start. Now I'm going, man, that's it. I'm probably the cat's gonna come out and say, listen, that's it. I've had enough of you cats, you know, with a few 4-letter words thrown in between. And I'm saying, it was, you know, I hope I get paid, you know, whatever. But it was a good experience anyway. I'm going home. I'm thinking I'm about to go pack up. He goes back into the control room, and John starts to laugh. And John starts smiling, you know. And as soon as he goes in the room, he waited. I can't believe John waited more than 30 seconds. And that's a long time. All of a sudden, he started playing, but at the same level of intensity, but the level was down in terms of volume. But the intensity level was spot on, man. Mm-hmm. And now Michael said, it's upset because the groove is so good. How could he stop us from playing? I'm not going to let this MF do, you know, he starts to go through all this kind of stuff. And I'm going, oh, man. How do I protect my drums? I don't have any more. You know, I'm trying to figure out a way to back it away from all of the excitement. And out comes Miles running, you know. I mean, he's like looking, and I'm kind of like lightly playing as I thought. And he turns around and looks at the control room and said, red button. And the light goes on, bing, you know. And I started, whoa, and everything got boom, blah, and we're playing. We never played a note that we rehearsed the day before.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
This is the magic of Cobham. Because I've witnessed this when I heard Mahavishnu play live. You could see the electricity going back and forth between the players. Yeah. And then when I had to sit next to Billy performing the thousands of clinics we've done together, he's always that way. He always has this in the moment, in the now. Billy, you live right at that moment, and whatever happens at that moment, that's what you unleash all the time.
It's the only way I know. I mean, I'm playing from a position of student, not master. I'm just playing, okay, this is the cards that were dealt me. I better play this hand and hope that we get through this all right, you know, and I'm good, you know.
That's gotta be, Joe, that's gotta be the catch-all phrase that we have here. The fact that Billy Cobham, with his incredible years of experience, is still playing the role of the student to be open and taking ideas, even at his level of playing. That is huge.
Yeah.
It's important. You can never. I've always looked at playing. I've been blessed to play through this instrument or to come up with ideas to play through this musical community. I've always scoffed in my mind anyway. From when I hear somebody say the band and the drummer, I go, or you know, the band, the drummer and the vocalist, and go, hello. Okay, I get it. You said, but obviously, you let the drummers. You put that band on the bandstand without a drummer and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you also you compose, you write on the piano. I mean, there's a whole nother level of copy on that.
Yeah,
that brings out all of these recordings.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, man. I know. But let me tell you something, you guys, and everybody out there. How you get better is not just by laying down and learning the basic tenets or the overall tenets of playing the drums. You've got to be able to take that valuable information and transfer it into the absolute language of music.
Right.
So if you specialize in rhythm, then you're a rhythmist, which is wonderful. But if you can take that stuff and match it up by going, okay, I want to play this rhythm, sing it, whatever, with a combination of sounds over and over again. Okay, so you're hearing on these drums, on these toms and the snare drum. And you can take that pattern, knowing what the pattern is in the strokes, and play specific drums that come up with a different combination of sounds within the key of a particular song. That takes the place of just laying it down, which you need to do. That's something you gotta do. You gotta do. You can't get away from that. But then there's life on top of that, because that's your foundation. You can't let that go. You let that go, everything falls apart. It's a house of cards. But if that's strong enough and you have the control over that, the world is your oyster, man. And that's always the way I think about it. Yeah, Joe.
Even when we have more questions from me and everybody that's watching than we could possibly get to in an hour now. But what occurred to me there, even when you're playing alone, like the two solos on,
yes,
I think they're on Spectrum, like Anxiety and Searching for the Right Door.
Yeah.
Like the first solos that I heard that like just completely having nothing to do with licks, but the titles of those solos are evoke what you're playing,
right.
And it's just.
Like on these recordings, go listen to some of the stuff, and what you're going to hear is Billy is like a chameleon. He adapts at that moment, at that song, at that key change, at that structure of the chordal. Everything is all playing the parts of what's driving him in that moment.
We have a bunch of things to talk about that Bill and I went over yesterday that are more current. But before we leave it, Rob Wallace is actually with us, and he kind of records somewhere where I wanted to go. So, Bill, with the Mahavishnu, you were talking about you and John jamming. Since the Miles stuff, like Bitches Brew and everything, it only predated Inner Mounting Flame by, I think, a year or two. I'm assuming you already had the big kit concept going, even though you didn't have. Yeah. So did you do it on the fly with Mahavishnu, like when you guys got together?
Yeah, when I got the double bass drum kit for Birds of Fire.
Yeah,
that's the first time I played double bass drum. Actually, on a record, the first time I played double bass drum was at Louis Belson's house in Los Angeles, because I wanted to ask. I'd go sit down with him and put up with Pearl enough to get a decent meal, while he was the good cop. And I won't say anything else about Pearl, but
she was tough,
yeah, it was a little bit rough, to say the least. And I'm lucky I'm here to talk about it. But anyway, so I learned a lot, and I was trying to. Okay, here we go. I was trying to get the same kind of relationship that Pearl had with my mother, with me, and she wouldn't allow it. And so she could give my mother all of her cookbooks and blah blah blah. Here, darling, blah blah blah. And they had a ball. And then when it came to me, I was like, man, what are you doing here? You know how blessed you are to be with your mother? And I'm like, man, all I wanted to do was talk to Louie. And she comes in and said, "You guys ready to eat?" And I come like this, and here we go. I said, "But I don't want a whole lot." "What do you mean? You don't like my food?" Here we go. Maybe I should be quiet. No, don't be quiet. Say what you mean. Yeah, give me a break.
Your mom was the best cook, that's for sure.
Let's not go. I loved her. The food was never a problem without Pearl. But just to get to Louie, it was like going through the pearly gates of hell, And all the pearls, pearly gates were melting because Oh boy, But anyway,
Getting back to the double bass drum.
Belson says, maybe you ought to try 2 bass drums. I said, man, I can hardly play one. I mean, come on, you see me play. Look. Yeah, I know, but you just got to relax. You got to relax. And really, remember, every morning you got to walk at least 2 miles. I mean, with all of that was happening then. Louis died he made 90, right? Or not?
Louis was about 83, 84 when he passed away.
83, 84. So 60, but 20 years before that, I was like trying, just watching all the stuff that he did. And more not just watching, but listening. His discipline, the way he sat at the drum set was with the respect of the drums. He played. It was like you get on a horse that's an incredible horse, and if you don't respect that horse, you'll come in last in the race because you don't know what the horse doesn't know what you want to do. You don't know what to do with the horse. He said, can we just get through this? And then someone like a Willie Shoemaker gets on the horse, and the horse, is like insane, big red, and he's running away from everybody, 17 lengths ahead already, won the race already, And it's the same thing with the drum set. I have a Cocobolo set. I have a Molecule set. I have the Phoenix set from Yamaha. I have the Babinga set from Tama. Great. If you don't know what to do with them, you don't have anything except names. And that's exactly how you're going to sound. And with all due respect, in my opinion, I might as well play on, what do they call those drum sets, a PDF or whatever those other things. I have no ideas. And they sound like that. If you don't know what to do with them, and for some people, that's good enough. I get it. But for me, not. If I need to know what heads I can use on the specific shell, why the shell is just the way it is, if I can find out, if I can become comfortable with all of the pieces that make up a drum in a set, I'm going to play that much better because I'm coming from the history of the instrument.
But then, Billy, you took the drums by way of Joe Hibbs and switched the tom sizes around that allowed you to see the drum set orchestration-wise almost the way a mallet player would look at it.
I was blessed. I was fortunate. I swear to goodness, man. I didn't expect it. Again, we're late.
I was on that gig with you. We did that together.
Explore music, man. Explore music. And we're panicked. My God, we got to get here. We got a curfew. It's in Kansas. What do you do after curfew? You go and you hide somewhere because it's Kansas down here. I get it. I'm from New York. I understand. And so I'm going through all of this, and I say, Hibbs, here, what? He said, what do you want me to do with these drums? I said, put it back there. And I said, on that side. And I never looked. And the next thing you know, he had a 15 in his hand and he put it up. I didn't know. And when I turned around, I said, oh, man, we don't have enough time to change now. We got to hit it.
Yeah, we were frantically setting up. I had my kit set. We were people were waiting, thousands of people in line. It was a
rumble, man, And I'm going, okay. Hey, maybe this is a conversation piece. If I mess this up, I got to tap dance my way out. So I'm going through all of this. Papa Joe. Da 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 da. And all, ta-da! Drum set. I don't know what's going to happen with it. Okay, let's see what happens. I hit the drum. Then I realized, holy cow, man! So really, in theory, it's not where you place the drums because of the conventional method that something is set up by somebody else. As per in drumsticking and all of this, you can only hold the drumsticks from the right and play. No. It's possible. You got another angle. If you play both ways, that's even better. All these things start to open up and you go, hey, I mean, the French method, the German method of holding the sticks, and you have all these different concepts and you go, if you're familiar with as many of them as you possibly can, you might be able to use them here or there molar, God forbid. You know, everything, it's in there, Chapin, it's in there somewhere. You're going to need that.
And interesting enough, Joe, at the time, at that event, I then went on first and did my little vaudeville act. I introduced Billy. Billy came out, first time playing the drum set with the toms all rearranged. Now, Joe Hibbs, who had been working with Tom at drums, and rest his soul, he passed away a few years ago. Joe and I were backstage now. I introduced Billy. Billy goes up. We're laughing. Billy sits down. And that performance, Billy, that you played was so incredible. It was musical and daring and on the edge, and you were trying different movement. It opened you up to different movement. You had different positions. So much happened in that one solo.
Right.
Hibber and I were like looking at each other like, oh my gosh. And it was so incredible. Billy finishes his first solo in the first minutes, gets a standing ovation. The people are going crazy. And all of a sudden now we're going, I think we just witnessed something pretty heavy. And that's been the kit that you basically set up for all these years.
Yeah, it just stayed that way because I'm still trying to figure out how to do what I'm doing. I mean, it's like, to be quite honest with you, I mean, I'm in a cloud, man. You know, it's like every time I play that drum set now, I go, uh-oh, what did I miss? I mean, I didn't hear this before. And then I realized it's not the setup alone.
Yeah.
It's the makeup of the instrument. It's the room. And so you have to take all these different aspects into consideration. Otherwise, somewhere along the way, you get bored. You go, man, I'm doing the same thing over and over again. But no, there's a lot more to go with it. And now with the incorporation of drum heads, I mean, they've come so far. You know, drumstick sizes, weights, the more focus on the tips and the neck and all of this kind of stuff. The more you know, little things that were like, yeah, sure. I used to play a Charlie Purse hip stick, you know, it's a 5B in Gretsch. and you know, and it was never ever straight. You know, it was always warped because of course they needed to save money, so they came up with something as close to akin to plywood as they possibly could, and they kept it, of course, in a very human place. Everything was like, you might as well use it for, you know, as a bow and arrow. It's true, but it worked, you know.
And I can remember Billy at Frank Ippolito's shop back in the 70s. We're rolling sticks on a counter, trying to find something that can be used. Yeah, and we take sometimes what you got, which they were all straight.
So here's I was kind of going towards this too, actually, Bill. So you have all the different toms, that many toms double bass, but your cymbal setup is also distinctive too. Every time I've seen you have the crashes on one side, but you don't seem to need as many cymbal voices on that big kit, right? Like it's you have one ride, one hat.
Right, for that music, but the voices change with the weight and the type of Siljan cymbal that I use, because in essence, I've never used anything. I mean, for any length of time. I honestly tried Paiste once, and I tried Meinl. I actually built a set of cymbals prototypes for Meinl to come into the cymbal business. That's another story for another day. And so I still got those. They were called Torians, and I've got them. But it's like, come on. Hart, I go back to Lenny's on the Turnpike, man. I mean, 1967 with Billy Taylor, and I've been playing a zillion cymbals since then. I've known, you know, Pagnotti and Leon, all these, those are my guys, man. You know, and I mean, I don't even know if Leon's still here, but I mean, Lenny's gone, Pagnotti long gone. I know his son, he's in Moscow. I mean, it's just Zildjian's been with me.
But that family, when Bob Zildjian started Sabian, one of the first things Bob thought about was Billy. He wanted to make that old style cymbal for Billy. And Billy, but also in your setup, you had a ride cymbal to the left, and you had a Chinese cymbal to the left at sometimes, right?
I had a swish knocker, and it was Zoody's old swish knocker that he gave to Mel, and then Mel gave to me. And I still got that cymbal, man.
Wow.
And that's what I use on the, I got to send you guys the record. The new, you don't have, oh God, the two records we got. The two new records, time-lapse photos I got to send you.
So time-lapse, yeah, because I got these.
Time-lapse? No, I got to send you time-lapse. That's the big band. And that's Spectrum 40, and then the other one is Tales from the Skeleton Coast. The one that's Volume 3 3 of a 4-volume set that is now complete. The 4th volume is called Tierra del Fuego. It just came out about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I will send it to you. Okay.
Listen,
And then what you have is all of the stuff that was inspired. My parents inspired me to do. I have a 4-record set. It will come out as a 4-volume set.
wow, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Okay.
And then talk about this.
Oh boy. You know who was missing? You were missing from that. We were at Ronnie Scott's for a week. Okay. And Brian Gruber, a really good friend of mine.
Yeah, this is the book here.
Yeah, Brian came with Mike Shimada. I mean, it was like that week that all kinds of crazy things happened at Ronnie Scott's, and all we talked about in Ronnie's old dressing room in the back was stories. You know, and all these things kept coming, one thing after the other, because Gruber lived in East New York around the same time that I was in Bed-Stuy.
Right.
You know, all these things. Yeah, you remember, you know, what about the air creams were better in East New York? No, man, I don't think so. I mean, we went all through that, you know. So I know where you can get it. And Guy Barker said, I know where you can get air creams here. Yes, in the Jewish community over here. Right, yeah, right. But it's not, you don't, he said, but does it really have eggs in? No. No.
I suggest everyone to pick this book up. It's just great stories. It's great information. The Billy at Ronnie Scott's is unbelievable. And I mean, Joe, as you know, there are so many stories. Mm-hmm. And just the fact that my first tour with Billy in 1983 was 27 cities in 28 days.
Wow.
Wow.
That's what the clinic scene was like back in the early 80s. It was full on. You know, flight in the morning, arrive, set up, sound check, bang, you hit it, thank you very much, out to dinner, check in the hotel, late night sleep, up early in the morning, back to the airport, go back. It was intense.
Yeah. That's what they are.
They were, okay, good.
Great. Okay, they're coming out to you, but they're available through just Fina123 at Mac.com. And you can, people can buy this stuff now.
We're going to share after the session. A couple of the guys have just asked. We'll share a list, Dom, of all the recordings you held up the book. And Bill, I'll get the information from you for people who want to order those.
Okay.
I'll put it in the comments.
And Faina is the energy behind Cava. His wife, Faina, is fantastic. She is the organizer, the manager, the technical support,
everybody,
the emotion, the energy, the passion that puts Cobham out there for sure.
Oh, puts the palm on the ham.
So let's talk about some educational things. Bill, you have plans to do another Art of the Rhythm section retreat, which was your retreat for musicians?
What I need to do, we need to map out how we do it. Obviously, it's going to be by the time we get around to doing it. After what Dr. Fauci says, I know I more than likely won't be able to get to the United States physically before the end of 2021. On the other hand, God willing, it might be earlier than that, but I don't see it until a mindset changes. So we can do this electronically. We can do this by TV, by this.
Just explain, Billy, what we did with the retreat. Just kind of explain the concept behind it and what we put on for those years. It was powerful.
What I sought to do, and what I feel we partially accomplished because it's so rich. Yeah, I could never say that we got it all. Yeah, we were just beginning to get it, and then enter COVID. But that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. We grew, we matured. And there's a lot of things that can happen over the waves now that I never knew. Our auditorium, so to speak, is the world. We can connect all over. I can be at home in Panama or here in Bern, and we can get it. And you guys are where you are, and we can get it. We have to have it just organized. What the actual points that we need to make for that week of work are these. Primarily, how to work together as part of a team. Yeah, the rhythm section is a team. Okay. Hey, Felipe.
Yeah.
I see him. Hey, you lost weight. Okay. Anyway. So that said, you come in and you're talking about laying it down. the most difficult things for any knowledgeable player to do is to play less than he knows.
Yeah.
And know when to choose what he knows, only what he needs to use to play based on his facilities. So what we try to do is to provide, without just, more than talking, examples of how that happens and say, okay, you've just seen how this can be. Enter Lee Oscar, Cisco Kid, yeah, harmonica. Cisco Kid was a friend of mine. You feel it's like very, very simple, right? But if you get somebody who is very, very, very academic and no, it doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah.
So all you need to know is like boom, boom, bat, and make that feel good. Do that, bat. That's not easy. Okay, if you learn so much more, now you're turning around and your mind is saying, "Come on, man, this is a bad joke." But when you realize you can't do it, not because you don't know how to do it, but that you know too many ways to do it, so you can't decide which one to use. And the first one you want to use is the simplest one in the world.
Yeah. So imagine, Joe, what this was Billy's group on stage. All other musicians would come, drummers, guitar players, bass players, reed players. They'd all come and they would take lessons with all of us in rhythm section responsibility.
Yes.
And then there was breakout rooms where keyboard player would work with music. Then we'd rotate them. So
yes,
myself with Billy, we organized this plan of how we can do this. People came into Phoenix, Arizona, into the Mesa Arts Council, which is what we had at the center.
Yeah.
It was incredible that we had there. And they'd come in when they came in on Monday and they started to hear Billy's band play and then to learn this process. By Saturday when they left, everyone was completely changed because everyone had a chance to play. Everyone was evaluated. Everybody was positively reinforced. And they walked out of there with the understanding that less is more. It's all about the music. And that's what the vision that Billy had. And it worked.
I think what's genius about it is that, you put the drummer with your band members. So when we're all drummers talking to each other, but now you just spent almost an hour talking about being sensitive to the other musicians, feeling what's coming at you. Yeah. So to have the chance to sit with your bass player while you're listening.
Yes.
No one had done that. I think that's brilliant.
And that's very, very, very important. Because you get a chance to play with accomplished professional musicians in the studio. You sit down. The music is put in front of them. Like, for instance, right now, you guys know Vladi from Monaco from the Monte Carlo Circus. Remember?
Yes, Vladi the drummer.
Yeah. He lives downstairs from us.
Oh, he's Russian who played the Russian circus.
He plays in the circus. So I may have to go in and because he's our next door neighbor here. And so we've been friends for years. So he's now conducting the orchestra, and I may have to go in and play his parts on the drums. But this goes back to the studio days. Where we had to do Friday night fights, and so we did marching bands, drum corps. Prior to that, and that was me, Sunrise of St. Catherine's, all of that. Prior to that, it was the United States Army Band. Prior to that, so it's like, these are the things that you learn. Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus, blah, blah, blah. Just a subbing, or working for Grady Tate, or working for Mel Lewis. You learn these things, you bring them to the table. You don't play them all in one bar. Yeah. You just play what you need, to get that happening.
Even a name and Billy just said it quickly, Grady Tate.
Yeah.
Phenomenal drummer, phenomenal singer, a great singer.
You see?
Absolutely great singer. He really understood melody and harmony and jazz improvisation, brilliant singer. Talk about an unsung hero.
Oh, man. Windmills of My Mind. With Gary McFarland, all these cats,
I used to go hear him. I had so many talks with him just to sit down with him.
Yeah.
I want you all to research Grady Tate. Go do the homework.
I think
Peggy Lee. That's just the tip of the iceberg. But these are the things you come back round to the situation, or me at promises of working, working in the pit. All these different things are very, very important. Just to if you, I mean, I feel very blessed that I had the opportunity for somebody to say, listen, man, you're fired, but if I ever call you again, this is what I'd like you to do. At least you got there to find out that you made the mistake, because mistakes are your best teachers. Okay. If you listen to them. Okay.
And that's
if you do it a second time.
That's not even talking about my past marriages. We're just talking about music, right?
I didn't want to get into that.
I told you guys about this. It's funny, Bill and Dom. I had the pleasure of interviewing Rod Morgenstein on Tuesday, and Bill, I had forgotten all the things, the different things you've done. Drummers listen to the Mahavishnu stuff, and of course your classic solo stuff a ton. But I forgot that you did Jazz is Dead, which was a whole nother different.
Oh, let's not get into where. And Bobby in the Midnights and Jazz is Dead. Okay, now that's T. Lavitz. Oh boy, and it's fascinating. Things I learned from everything. I mean, for me, being with Ware and the Midnights and working occasionally on the same stage with Garcia, or being in the Digger Rhythm Devils at Radio City Music Hall was nuts. I mean, I'm amazed that I'm alive to talk about it, because I couldn't figure out where I was, because I made the mistake of drinking something I shouldn't have. I got some punch by accident because I was thirsty. Mistake. And the rest is history. Where are we, man? And why are we? Who are you? Meanwhile, I'm doing Saturday Night Live upstairs, and they're doing that downstairs in the oh God, what a mess. Yeah.
It's like the history is just incredible, and we almost used up our hour, and I had 25 more. This I know it's great. I only got to my first 3 questions, but Dom, I'm gonna leave you the chance to ask Bill one more question.
This is why a part 2 is going to have to be necessary. Part 2, so we can just answer questions. Okay.
Oh boy,
Billy, just talk about you're really known for opening the doors of open-handed playing. You talked about just the naturalness when you were playing cross-handed, how that seemed kind of ridiculous, and how when you would sit down at the dinner, your fork was on one side, your knife was on the other side, and just how the balance of how you grab things, and how you just saw that, even though you're a natural right-handed person, saw that as being way more sensible than this cross concept. And remember, years ago, not only was it cross, they used to play this way.
Yes, I know.
So you completely, in the late 50s, just took this vision, and when people were saying, Billy, that's not the way it's done, you're wrong, you had the courage, the fortitude, the perseverance, the vision to stay with that. And then from you planted the seeds of Simon Phillips and the Klaus Hesslers and the Will Kennedys. I mean, there's amazing amount of players, myself too, to be inspired, to go down that path, to understand that I'm going to build my left hand. You totally envision that. What was it like in the early days when you just started playing that way?
What I found out to do from Specs Powell. Remember Specs?
Specs Powell, yeah.
Okay. Well, he was a friend of my dad's, and Specs, I think, did the original Bernstein West Side Story. I'm not quite sure, but
wow.
My dad brought me to him one day because somebody in another band my dad was working with said, you should take your son to see Specs. Yeah. I went with that, of course, and Specs said, okay, sit down, play for me. And what I did was I started playing left-handed conventional. He said, no, you don't play that way. And I said, why? And my father said, because he said you don't play that way. So I said, oh, okay, you mean like this? And I turned around and started Specs glasses. So father was, what did you just do? I said, I just turned it over. I just played. So I started playing the opposite way. He said, your son is very special. He said, can you play rudiments that way? I said, yeah, this way, and I can play this way. And he said, well, which way do you like? I said, well, actually, I like this way because my brother showed me how to play this way. And he said, my father said, hi, your brother. Wayne at the time was born in 1953. What do you mean? And I'm going 51. I'm sorry. And And I said, well, he holds both sticks like when Mom makes the turkey, she had drumsticks, and those are drumsticks. He holds them just like that, or the shakers. And Speck said, you gotta sit down with him a little bit more. You know, we need to. I'd love to see him again, but we couldn't afford to go back to him. And I mean, I'm talking about we couldn't. Man, $5 for a lesson or something like this, or $10. No, man, that was gold back then for us. So you know, I had, if it wasn't for people like Mr. Copeland, Ray Copeland was a great trumpet player, whose son Keith was my best friend. Went to Shimer Junior High School on Linden Boulevard. Me and him, him and Ronnie Bedford was teaching Keith at the time. Wow. And Ronnie Bedford and Ray were working in the what's his name? This is a great or a jazz orchestra at the time that I can't remember the guy's name. He was writing for somebody on NBC. Anyway, all these things were happening in the studio. Fast forward to Roy Haynes. Me and Artie Simmons, George Cables, we were all friends. It's this Albany, South Jamaica kids, and Mr. Haynes was the uncle of Artie, the trombone player in my first jazz band I was ever in, called the Jazz St. Martins. Wow. And just before I went into the Army, and he helped me to get into high school at the High School of Music and Arts from Shimer Junior High School on the thing. Wow. But you know, the connections, you know, 1 degree always connected. We had to get a letter, a recommendation, and of all people to allow me to get this letter was a gentleman by the name of Gabriel Kosakov. And Mr. Kosakov, believe it or not, was playing in the United States Army Band in 1947. Okay, I was 3 years old. Mr. Kosakov came to the Sony Hall to see me play with the Crosswinds Project in 2018.
Wow.
He was in the audience, and I looked at him. I said, "I'm selling the CD," and I looked. I said, "Mr. Kosakov?" He says, "I'm not dead yet." And you know, it's like, I mean, I'm 74 years old at that point, man. Yeah. And this is a man who's still standing almost as tall as I can't remember the name of the saxophonist with Quincy Jones at the time, but very big man. Yusef Lateef, who was around 6'7".
Yeah.
He was still huge. Yeah. Just before he died, I met him. He was already in his 90s. And I saw Gabriel Kosakov, and he was so strong. And his daughter had retired from the legal. I mean, she was younger than me. I'm just going, good Lord, man, it's amazing to have the honor to meet the teacher that got me all the way through my stuff. Me, Freddie Lipschus, Fred Taylor. There's so many of us that went there. Jimmy Owens. Wow. My old friend Eddie Gomez sat next to me. The seat to my left was Eddie Gomez in my homeroom class, and we all went through Kosakov. And he's going, "I'm not dead yet."
Yeah. So you can imagine, Joe, the stories that Billy has just in this 1 hour session. Each one of these can expand into a whole nother lesson. So why there has to be people are saying, part 2, we need a part 3, we need a part 10.
It's the only school that I've ever went to where I went and I sat down in front of the school across the street in Harlem, 137th Street, St. Nicholas Terrace, to take a class on music history, sitting on a rock, the whole class sitting on a rock in middle of the winter, man. You know, it's like unbelievable. And we had so much time, we didn't even want to go home. They were so good.
Bill, I have to say, with all the history you've lived and your respect for the music and all the legends you play with, plus your own stuff, we've been doing with Hudson Music like biographies now, drummers. But do you have an autobiography that you should publish your autobiography? I mean, you really should. Your life story is so interesting, and you remember everything so vividly. I mean, do you have memoirs? You should put it out. I would love to read that.
No, man, I'm still busy trying to make a decent pair of drumsticks. I don't. I can't find anything that works for me.
That's on my agenda to talk to Billy next, as far as the book, and we're gonna have to assign someone to work with him. But that will have to happen for sure.
Whatever. Everybody's split. Oh, that.
No, I want to make sure everyone knows, Bill, at your website.
Yeah, that's now we're back up and running. Yeah.
So you guys can go to billycobham.com and you can look at his discography. You can check out the recordings, find out about them, get them. And when Bill starts to travel and tour again, hopefully all of us sooner rather than later.
Yeah. And the art of the rhythm section retreat is something which I want you all to Google and research, get some information about it, because anyone, all instruments, yourself, your band members, your guitar player, your bass player, getting everybody involved will absolutely lift your musical game to a higher level than doing this.
And remember now, that's something that's my fault. In all of those kicking around ideas and thoughts, I forgot to mention that that in the Art of the Rhythm Section Retreat, it's designed for the rhythm section. So it's for bass players, as Dom said, and guitarists and pianists or keyboardists, actually. And if you play mallets, of course, drums. And this last time that we did it, we had wind players. We had bassoonists because of Paul Hansen, and that was really wonderful. Saxophone players and all. It would be really wonderful to continue that route. Of course, the harmonica it's very, very important, but vocalists are involved. There are many different ways to come at this, and it's starting with the rhythm section. How a drummer attracts or is attracted to the uniqueness of a singer. How do you play with a singer? How? And here we go into that black hole called the ballad. How do you play slow? Now, there's a heavy. Okay, there's a heavy. It's very, 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 very difficult because we're all thinking about, listen, man, we don't have that much time. We only have 18 seconds before our attention span goes someplace else. And we're talking about going in the opposite direction with Pearl Bailey on the mound at Yankee Stadium, where she's singing the national anthem, and she goes, "Oh, say." She hasn't said "can yet." That lasted, and they couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to do? You can't say you're singing it too slow.
Right.
It's the World Series, for Christ's sake. Everybody clapped. Say, "Can you see?" Bye, and everyone went, "Yay!"
Well, it's so great that Sabian has given us this opportunity to have Billy here for this hour of time. Time is restricted, but I'll tell you something. As we do more of these with Billy, same thing. We'll set it up. We'll add more questions. We'll do this up. I think if we keep this going, we'll be able to pull enough out of Billy, which we'll then be able to use to write the freaking book.
Yes, absolutely. We're not letting him out of it.
Trust me.
Well, guys, thank you so much. Dom, thanks for co-hosting and being here with your old friend Bill. And Bill, thank you. It's always a pleasure to hang with you. And thank you for giving us.
We're talking. I see Sabian, but I see Zildjian. It's just that family. And for me, it's very, very special.
And Bob Zildjian saw that when he started Sabian. He had that focus on it. Bob said, I want Billy to have the best product that can be made that had that old school style, but with this new innovative propellant that does so well. And that's why, and that's what it was. So it was a wonderful connection.
It's the consistency, it's there. But again, we haven't even touched on a cymbal. There's Sabian there, and we talk about everything else, and that's the foundation of everything that's happening. It's not just the drum.
Yeah.
It's the cymbal, but then we could talk about the lugs, and we could talk about the pedals, and all these different bits and pieces, and never, ever finish.
The Billy Cobham Sabian Live series. I can see it now.
Oh, boy.
Awesome. Well, thank you, guys. Bill, thanks again.
Hey, pleasure.
we're gonna suck you back in. Just when you think you're out, we're gonna bring you back in for another one. So be prepared.
No, I'm around. I mean, I don't know how much longer, but I'm around.
Good. Good. Well, for those of you guys who teach, this is brought to you by the Sabian Education Network, sabianed.com. Go there and please sign up. We do have some more live sessions coming up next week that we're excited about, especially next Friday. We'll have the great David Garibaldi, and Dom and I will give him the third degree. It's his turn, Bill. It's Garibaldi's turn.
Oh, boy.
So
I got to sit in on that and just listen.
Yeah. You could just heckle them in the comments. We love
it.
No. Thanks, you guys. We'll see you guys next week. Bill, thanks again.
Tom, we need to talk, but we'll talk.